how could life be getting harder and harder? Well, something's broken. Okay, what's broken? Then you figure out the money is broken.
You said the greatest magic trick in history.
It's hard as a human because you just always think, no, this can't be the thing. No, it is. This is, I call it a once in a species opportunity. I really believe that we could be entering the next renaissance. Once you invent fire, you don't uninvent fire.
The fifth element came along.
Oh, I like that. You might have a book there. Bitcoin seems to be pulling me, and it's really given me life because I've been in those dark places. And to anybody listening, like, I'll look into the camera, like, hit me up, like, hit us up. Like, Bitcoiners understand, these kinds of things. All of us out here that are just putting our necks out there, it's because we've been through something and we feel this desire to bring the rest of the world with us. And it's almost like the tragedy of the Bitcoiner that we have to do this because it's this bright future. And that's literally why I wrote the book. Bitcoiners get this sense, like there's a lot of studies around, and we talk a lot about this on X, about the personality types of Bitcoiners. And we tend to be early adopters. We tend to be critical thinkers. It's like I'm an INFJ. So, slightly introverted, although I can be social in some situations. I'm a thinker. So, there's these different elements that you kind of have to see something this early. And so I think that's part of it. I think it's just my makeup, my personality type, right?
Well,
And
that's what it
then
makes me interested as well, because I think about that. What kind of people are the ones who look for, for this exit, or try to see things differently? Is it critical thinking? Is it curiosity? Like, what kind of personalities are like that?
even though, like, I've heard from some that Myers-Briggs is sort of falling out of favor a little bit, but I still think it's pretty interesting to look at. Especially, there's been a lot of reports out there. You can look it up and just use some AI and grok it. But like, there's a lot of stuff out there about how this is related to different personality types, and it's pretty shocking because you just see the numbers, and it's like, wow, like most Bitcoiners fall into these specific type of personality. It's like 3 or 4 of them that are very high Bitcoin. So that's me. We tend to be entrepreneurs. We tend to be risk takers. I mean, my first book was all about taking risks. I've had nothing in terms of a traditional upbringing. Like, it's been completely unconventional, all the stuff that I've done and the choices I've made in life. So I think that predisposed me to want to learn more about this, just that innate curiosity. But I would say it was the tech and then the political that came in and combined for me that really pushed me over the edge to go, okay, let me rethink everything, because I'm messing around with NFTs. I'm messing around with these tokens. I'm launching, because it came from the gaming space, right? So I'm like, let me launch games. NFTs were super hot. Everything was, I was trying to find what was going to catch hold, right? But I knew there was this like massive change. It wasn't until the political stuff started to come in.
But what was it specifically?
Well, it was like COVID. It was like the breakdown. It was inflation was going crazy. I mean, life got really hard for me, as I'm sure it did for many, many Americans, as well as people around the globe, because it was a shock that was felt everywhere. But it started with, that was the election. So, 2020, you have a new administration coming in. You have all this craziness. You have COVID happening. You have the economy starting to crumble. You have inflation rocketing. And so it took, again, even from that point, some other people were already onto it by then. I still hadn't gotten it. It was until 2024, 4 years later, that whole process had sort of come to a head. And you had all this craziness with Elon Musk coming in, which was another thing that drew me in, because I'm a technologist. So I have this technologist, Elon Musk, coming over. I'm like, whoa, I was a Democrat. I was born very, very left, very liberal, very democratic. And all of these things started to combine in my head to think more about money. And that is when really Bitcoin, I think, really starts to hit hard, is when you really, and I had done plenty of studies before about it, but in congruence with the election and what seemed to be happening, it felt like the world was falling apart at that point.
Right.
And I still argue that it is. I think we're in the fourth turning, and I think that this is just inevitable. But it really became clear to me at the election time frame. And that's when I started really focusing on the book. I had been wanting to write the book, but I was like, okay, I'm doing this. It's Bitcoin. This is the future. It's the most important thing. And that's when it got spiritual for me, is once I started to dig deep enough, it became extremely spiritual. And that's when I started thinking about my daughter. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and it's like, what am I going to do for her?
Mhm.
and it was like Bitcoin is the thing that I can work on that I think can most positively affect my 5-year-old daughter's life.
Yeah, I mean,
That's it.
exactly. That's crazy to think that you started to see this stuff maybe politically because when Elon did get involved being a technologist and talking about inflation so much and just like mentioning DOGE and how
Yeah.
they want to cut spending because that's a huge reason. So I feel like that opens so many people's eyes. But it's true when you have kids. I mean, even though your daughter's 5, it's like you get to a point where you think, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, I'm thinking about what's gonna work. And then you just realize there's already something that's been there, that is working, that isn't, uh, it is immutable. Nobody can change the rules of the game, so it's like you just all of a sudden you realize, wait, it's been there this whole time. But I think we just all were trying to see what's the next thing, like, but you just realize that this thing is the thing. You
Yeah.
don't have to look for the next thing. You could just build on that system and that protocol. So that's really incredible that, the book is titled Life After Bitcoin, and this happened, what, 8 months ago, you said?
That's when I
So being
started
ta-
heavily focused on it, yeah. I mean, when
heavily
I write a
focused.
book, it's like a big deal, so I've been thinking about this for years, and I have, little things and little thoughts, but then it was like, you think of a book and how you're gonna angle it, and
Mhm,
it just get more and more focused sort of on Bitcoin, and I'm like,
mhm.
"Okay, let's just go all in. This is a Bitcoin book," and, because I was
Yeah,
thinking a lot about how the world was shifting from the corporation to the individual, right? I was thinking about economics, 'cause I went to Michigan and studied sociology and economics, um, and I was trying to go from those more sort of macro general sort of things. And then I just realized over the years, again, my 10-year awakening, my 10-year journey, like you said, Bitcoin is the thing. That's it. And it's hard as a human because you just always think, no, 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 this can't be the thing. No, it is. This is I call it a once in a species
right,
opportunity. And like
right,
Jeff Booth talks about this, how humans just we can't wrap our heads around something this big because it's like it only happens once in a species. This is fire. Imagine if you were around when we just discovered fire. Like that would be, I mean, that changed everything because we
right.
went from just think about it, fire. Try to imagine that. You're in the dark, you're in the cold, you're dying, you can't hunt, you can't do anything without fire. And then all of a sudden we figured this thing out and guess what? It's 2025. Are we still using fire? Oh yeah, we are.
Yeah, and
It's
what
a
was somebody
protocol.
else? Were they trying to make, like, a different version of fire? Were they
Right, you
trying to make a
can't do it
better
again,
fire?
it's fire, and, like, we discovered Bitcoin, like, it's that, and then once people make that clicks. I write about that in the book too, like,
Yeah,
these different protocols, fire's one of them, the wheel, the
mhm.
printing press, changed language forever, changed the spread of knowledge, like, these things, and Bitcoin is it, and we're, like, living in it, and so
Yeah,
it's a
it's
big
actually
realization.
incredible. I mean, that's why when you finally realize that, that's why you feel like it's spiritual because 'cause you're like, just like you said, once in a species, it's not just.
Yep.
I mean, it gives you chills just actually realizing that you were here, you're here to be part of this movement, maybe, like, part of you sometimes I feel this is like a crazy outside the box thought, but it's almost like you wonder why you're here at this time
Yeah.
experiencing this. Like, you wonder why, like, did your soul or something like want to be here for this change to raise your children in this new world? Like, are we the ones that picked this kind of like reality to live in? It's just crazy to think all these outside the box thoughts,
I often think these exact thoughts, Stacy.
Really?
So yes, I'm like I said, we're thinkers. Bitcoins are thinkers. So this is why a lot of people think we're crazy. We're totally nerding out right now. And the people listening to this, there's
Yeah.
there's one of two types of people listening to this. There's one person listening going, Yes, this is how I feel. There's another
Mhm.
person going, These people are crazy.
Right?
So,
I
but
know.
it's because you have to like it's sort of almost binary. It's like you don't see it like the Matrix, right? You can
Yeah.
see it or you can't. And it's like once Neo can see it, he can break down, he can then move mountains, right? It's like we feel that way, like we figured it out and we can kind of see the future. Like we might be laughed at now for the next 10, 15, 20 years, but then by the time we get like within our lifetime,
Mhm.
I'm quite confident that this new way
People
of
are gonna
life,
look back, yeah, they're gonna look back at a video like this and say, "Wow, those
yeah,
people were onto something." But I
yes,
felt like when I
yeah.
said it, I'm so glad you reacted that way because when I said it, I'm like, "Is he gonna think I'm totally nuts, like, for
No,
saying this?"
I'm like a Max Kaiser that realm. I like we've had him on the show. I've talked to him a little bit, and it's like
Yeah.
him and I are like that kind of thing, or like dark side, who's prevalent on X. Like
Mhm.
we're all in on this thing. And so no, you can't even say anything to shake us. Like
Mhm.
I tell people like the thing is going to 10 million, with 99.99%, guaranteed, whatever, unless
Mhm.
there's some, asteroid that kills us all, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then I honestly think there's a lot of upside after that. 20 million a coin, 30 million a coin. Like these are not out of the realm of possibility. And so when you like people, normies, as we call
Yeah.
them, who haven't studied this, they have no economics degree, they haven't read these books, they haven't looked at what Bitcoin is, they don't understand the protocol nature of it, they don't understand that there's no entropy. um they can't, and they don't understand unit bias, so they don't understand numbers or the size of markets, so they just can't possibly imagine Bitcoin going to 20
Yeah.
million or 30 million a coin. But I'm telling you, people out there,
Yeah.
it's very possible.
With microseed, you can engrave your entire seed phrase onto a durable titanium washer. It's the ultimate backup. Simple, indestructible, giving you true peace of mind and knowing your seed phrase is secured for life. Use my link in the description to get your kit. Satoshis. So many new styles and fully customizable. Use my referral link in the description or in the comments for 10% off your order. The Bitcoin Advisor for multi-sig custody solutions to store your Bitcoin, inheritance planning, and peace of mind.
Very
So
possible.
true. And I also wanted to say, when we were talking about personality types a little bit, like what kind of person you have to be, um, you know, to actually get into Bitcoin. And I wanted to know because, you said you've had Max Kaiser on, you guys have talked, and I heard recently, I think Tomer Storlight talk about how he's ADD, and so am I. And I do regulate that. I have regulation for it, but I also like the days where I'm not regulating it at all because my creative mind. So are
Yep.
you one of those people as well?
Well, here's what I'll
Or do
say,
you
and
not know?
I've been relatively public about all of this. So I yes, I am absolutely. I have been not really diagnosed for anything, honestly,
Mhm,
in my life, which I kinda just found out because I was
mhm,
going through this for a couple of reasons, and I'm like, "Oh, this wasn't actually a diagnosis."
mhm.
But yes, anything along those lines. I've suffered a lot from anxiety, a lot from depression, a lot from, intrusive thoughts. I've been, in very difficult, situations financially and personally because of all of this stuff, and yeah, so it's affected my life
Well,
majorly.
and then that's what I think, because my experience with this was I didn't find out this out until later in life. Like I have 3 kids, and I didn't find this out till after my 3rd kid. And I think I just started to realize, because my mind is all over the place, that I felt like I had anxiety and depression, but it would be caused by my thoughts, just so many thoughts, so
Okay,
many things.
so we got to do another episode because I'm still trying to get the verdict is out on this because I don't know, because I think potentially that the ADD may be the thing, but
Yeah.
I've had all these different things, because that's your point is spot on. You can have these feelings, sadness, anxiety, depression,
Mm,
whatever, anger, frustration, whatever. Pick your feeling,
mhm.
and then but it can fit into these different categories of like why that's happening to you.
Right.
So
It's
but yeah.
interesting. Yeah, because I think with here's like, for me, it was prior to me finding out about Bitcoin that I found out about this, because having more responsibilities in my life, having 3 children instead of just 1 or 2, and then all the things in my life that's about me, it was just too much to handle. But when you become a Bitcoiner, it's like, maybe if nothing else shifted in your life, but then now you learn about Bitcoin, and now you wanna live in this rabbit hole full time, but then the real life or like analog world is drawing you back, but you're like, no, no, I want to be here. I have all these
Yes.
things I'm thinking about. So your
Yes.
mind can be overwhelmed, because it's a matrix like idea, like in your book when you talk about that splinter in your mind and knowing something's wrong. And then when you finally realize it, it's like you have all this information and so much that you want to understand. So I think it can cause a lot of like, um, just overwhelmed feelings, so
Yes.
where you want more time to do this, and sometimes you don't feel like you have it. So it can make, so the reason I was asking all about how you are is because, um, and you can tell me more about that on your end, what you have to say about that. But um, it was another crazy idea that I'll bring up, okay? And I'm sure you're not gonna laugh me out of here, but
I'm with
I
you.
I had somebody that talked to me about um something with like autistic kids. Like there's a huge rise in not only ADD. Okay, so this ties back into why we may have chosen to be here during this shift,
Yes. Yes.
because there's such a rise in ADD and autism right now. So you just wonder
Yes.
why are there so many people now that have this versus before? I think technology contributes to it, makes it
Yeah.
worse, whatever. But also it's just this type of shift that we're living through. You almost need these type of thinkers to be around
100%.
for this shift. And then it's like these ADD or not ADD, autistic people. I heard about something called, a guest told me about something called the telepathy tapes, where there's something where like actual interviews of autistic kids where they're actually, geniuses. They're not,
Uh-huh.
but they can like meet up in this place mentally and just have like a conversation, like meet up on this place called the Hill that they call it. So I just thought that was crazy. It was a crazy idea, but I just believe it. I think that people that either have ADD or have autism, it's sometimes a gift. It's like you think
Yes.
completely different.
I am so glad that this is where this conversation is going, at least for this little thread of it, because
Mhm,
this is so important to me. And I love Tomer, by the way. Great shout out to him. And he's just one of the most brilliant minds. So, Tomer, shout out to you, buddy. He's just incredible. And there's so many, I call them remarkable minds. That's the term I use, remarkable. These are just remarkable human beings. And this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart because my brother, my younger brother, who ended up, he's no longer with us, he had Asperger's. And, he ended up having a tragic accident, head first into an 18-wheeler. And, you wonder, why are all these things happening? Why are we having so many tragedies like this just
mhm,
all the time? And then, I lost my dad, my father to cancer. Then I lost my brother to this. I
mhm,
think it was an unintentional suicide. We don't really know, but it's just sort of like, I was talking to him. I was depressed, so I was texting with him, and so I'm still here, right?
mhm,
And you start to wonder, like, why am I still here? And you go through all these different things. So to your point, like, no, I don't think it's crazy. And
mhm,
I think I've absolutely thought about this. And I've had a hard time, you know, figuring out why I'm here. And
mhm,
Bitcoin seems to be pulling me with its gravitational magnetic force. And it's
mhm,
really given me life because I've been in those dark places. And to anybody listening, like, I'll look into the camera, like, hit me up, like, hit us up.
mhm.
Like, Bitcoiners understand, these kinds of things. The top people, whether it's Tomer or any of the other folks that we're talking about, you're doing great work. All of us out here that are just putting our necks out there, it's because we've been through something and we've seen something, we've experienced something, we've thought really hard, and we feel this desire to bring the rest of the world with us. And it's
Mhm,
almost like the tragedy of the Bitcoiner is it's like the plight of the Bitcoiner that we have to do this because we see the future and it's this bright future. And that's
mhm,
literally why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote Life After Bitcoin, because I'm trying to explain to people, I've lost family members, friends, I've been ridiculed, I've been ostracized, I've been made
mhm,
fun of, I've been belittled, like, you name it. And it's been very difficult. And I'm sure, again, I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's so many other people out there that have this story, or even
mhm,
if it's a smaller version of this, right? Whether you're at a dinner table and being laughed at or whatever it is.
mhm.
And, you know, I think the combination of the broken dollar, the breakdown of human society and culture, the lack of awareness around the corruption within the media, the propaganda, and this fake culture that's being built, you have this, again, and this an inevitable
Yeah.
destruction that's going to happen, and what comes and rebirths out of that, it's Bitcoin.
Mhm.
So
And that's also why, first of all, thank you for sharing that with me about your
yeah.
brother, and about your dad. And I'm sorry that that was part of your journey and experience. And also, it's also like you said, like nobody knows everyone's story. Nobody knows every Bitcoiner's journey or what they've been through or struggle or trauma. But most of us that ended up getting to this point, it's you end up experiencing some very difficult emotional things. You're in a dark place, like you could be in a very dark place for many reasons. For most people, it could be just something where you just feel lost or hopeless, or just like you don't have any uh, you don't have a, not a passion, but a purpose. You know, you don't have a purpose. And then when you start to understand why things are so broken, it's almost like you need to break down to look and see through the veil in the matrix. You know, you need to break
100%.
down.
I mean, Max Kaiser, again, going back to him, he's brilliant. You know, he
Mhm,
talks about it where you got to hit rock bottom, just like Alcoholics
mhm,
Anonymous, right? Like AA, you gotta get there and you gotta really crumble to get built back up. And that
mhm,
is the challenge of Bitcoin. And that's why it's still in the early adopter phase, because it
mhm,
hasn't been built into the infrastructure in the rails of our economy yet. And so you really have to believe in this thing if you're
mhm.
gonna do it right now. And you know, in order to do that, you have to realize you've been being lied to your whole
Right.
life about everything. That is extremely difficult. And that's why people get angry when you try to tell people, no, 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 this is completely the opposite of what everyone's telling you on TV and all the headlines and this. They go, you're crazy.
Mhm.
Why are you trying to tell me everything I know is true is fake? And it's like, because it is, it's fake. And they
Yeah.
just can't get past the fact that it's in print or
It's
someone's saying it,
it's
you know?
almost like people have a level of, I don't wanna say it's a level of narcissism, but it's almost like when you don't wanna believe that is something that's in your face is true, or it's like your beliefs, you wanna believe that people have been honest with you and you haven't been lied to. You wanna believe you've been taken care of and somebody's looking
Yes.
after you. It's like you're outsourcing that sovereignty, or you're, like, outsourcing your mental health and your safety to
Yep.
somebody that you think has your best interests in mind. And that's why most of the things that I think grew to be the way they were wasn't, I just think it's because people try to convince themselves it's for the best interest of all the people, that why they're doing these things, but it's like motivated by human greed and turns into these things that eventually turn to shit. But like Bitcoin isn't controlled by that human greed, and it grows differently than other systems. It's not manipulatable, I guess, if that's a word. But it's just such an insane thing that, also thinking about your going back to your brother too, and having Asperger's, those are even the most intelligent people. Those are people that, so he may have been so above and beyond the matrix that he probably
Yeah,
knew, maybe he was overwhelmed by his thoughts, you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I would assume that he was a very intelligent, smart person, right?
Absolutely. He had a hard time socially, but he was the sweetest kid, and all he wanted was, guess what he wanted? He wanted love and truth to be he wanted to work for the FBI. Like, he wanted to get the bad guys. And it's like,
Wow.
people, a lot of people are not deep thinkers, and that's fine. That's okay.
Mhm,
At the end of the day, we're mammals. Like, we're just
mhm,
mammals. Like, I mean, look at a dog. Like, a dog's not thinking about the present or the past or
mhm,
the future in those contexts. It's just thinking about the present. It's just thinking about what it's doing right now. And, oh,
mhm.
this water tastes good, or, oh, let me go chase this ball. And that's a great way to be able to live. But we've now evolved to the point where we're thinking, and people like my brother Kevin, like, he was thinking a lot at a young age, and he didn't like what he was seeing, and he wanted to work for the FBI and fix all these problems, and it
Wow.
was too much for him. And then he got
Right.
made fun of, and he had all these these issues because he wasn't following the normal construct of people, and it's just,
Yeah.
this has all affected me. I mean, I write about this. I write about this in my first book, and I'm writing about it in my fourth book coming out, Life After Bitcoin. It affects the entire culture of everything. If you and it's
Right.
it's all because of the broken money. The reason all of this happens is because you have a fiat that inflates. And so what does that do? It makes you move quickly. What does that mean? It means you have to consume. It means you have to spend. What does that mean? You care about material things. What does that mean? You stop caring about relationships. What does that mean? Families break down, relationships break down, culture breaks down. What does that mean? Crime increases. Okay, now all of a sudden you're inflating the US dollar, so now everything costs more. Great. So now your culture's broken down, everything
Mhm,
costs more. What's going to happen? You're gonna have
mhm,
people in the street doing fentanyl, leaning halfway over in the street. Like, who? Of course, this is what happens.
mhm.
So, but it's like people can't see it because of what you mentioned brilliantly, which is confirmation bias and statistics, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to see this, so I'm just gonna pretend that even
Mhm.
what I see is not what I'm gonna say is happening. right?
Mhm.
That's confirmation bias in a study when you just see the thing that you believe, and so you just go with that. Even though the data is telling you otherwise, or it would have been something else, you just automatically in your brain. It's also part of human nature. You want to stay safe.
Safety.
You don't
Yeah.
wanna be out of your comfort zone. So you
Uh-huh.
just go, "Nope, I'm just gonna stay with this thing over here." And then you have all these people who are, in power or leading, telling you that it's all good.
Mhm.
So and we've been told that for generations, right? So
Mhm.
it's a really huge mind fuck, excuse my language,
Yeah.
and
I mean, no,
you have
honestly.
to unlearn everything.
Yeah, and I
So
wonder if that's why maybe do you feel like you're knowing that that's how Kevin was and how he would think about these problems or think about ways he could fix things and all the way like, do you feel like that kind of I don't know what timeline that happened to him and you, but do you think that some of those things about how he wanted to see the future shaped or changed, do you think that led you to anything that you worked on?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Yes. There's
Mhm.
certain things in life that just drive you, and he is way up there, if not number one, for almost everything. I mean, it's my dad, it's him, it's those two that I lost from my
Mm,
family. I've lost other family members. It's the people close to you. And again, this gets back to what is this all about, right?
right.
Bitcoin allows us to do the things that we care about, to actually maintain our value. If I go do some work and I can maintain my Bitcoin, then I can go spend time with the people I love. And that means a stronger family. That means stronger friends. That means stronger relationships. That means better businesses. That
I have
means better,
another crazy thought.
means everything.
I have another crazy
Go
thought.
ahead. Go for it.
So I just think that maybe like, because I believe that people are, spirits, we're energy and energy doesn't get created or destroyed, right? So I just think that the energy is out there. They're in a different dimension or what you will is heaven. It's just somewhere maybe very nearby and we don't see it. But sometimes I just wonder if like because that idea of we are the ones here for a reason, sometimes you just wonder if the memory of those people and what you want to accomplish because of them and what they showed you in life is like even if it's a memory you have or all the memories you have of them, but also is that energy on the sidelines kind of guiding you too. Like I
Oh,
just
yeah.
almost think that they're part of it, and you're
You,
here to be the one.
you're so amazing. And like, we could probably we could have marathons, you and me, just going on for
Yeah, I love
six or 7 hours
it.
about this. But, they say, so and so has survived through their son, like when someone
Hmm.
dies at a funeral and that phrase, it says, is survived by. I think that's a really poignant and interesting thing. And because I've experienced it, losing these people and others, I do feel that they all live on in me. And because I'm doing things based on them, and so that's real. Like they are literally still affecting reality
Hmm.
because they're affecting my decisions, and I am in reality. And that right there is the circle of life. It's our
Hmm.
ancestry. It's, whatever you want to call it. And like there's a lot of truth to like the stories that are told, fables, the Bible, there's these things that you hear, and it's like they're there for a reason because generation after generation we sort of thought about these things. But here's the unique thing about life. Each one of us is a unique soul. So we each start from zero, right?
Hmm.
So we're all going through this journey, yet we have literally millennia of, collective
Yeah.
knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And so this is how Bitcoin kind of connects everything. And yes, I do this stuff for Kevin. I do it for my dad. I do it, when I'm struggling, like my dad was such a competitor. Like he was just such a competitor. And I mean, he was like playing full court basketball a year before he passed with stage 4 cancer. Like who does that?
Jesus.
So
And that's why you have
like
both of those energy.
I was out of breath, and he was playing harder than me, and
Right.
he passed
But
away.
it's like
Like,
It's like he had that energy physically to do that at that point in his life, but
he was
that,
just
like,
a competitor.
fire yeah, that fire, that drive, that he had combined with, like, that thinking, it's like you have both of those things kind of coursing through you and for your daughter, so it's like it's not like you're just doing it for yourself, you're for the next wave of
Yep.
family, that's gonna be living in this world, and yeah, that's just such I'm so glad that you not only have the same ideas, but you have like life experience and reasons why this is true to you. So, um, but there's just like that's why I feel like we could have like a whole series because I
I mean,
have so
maybe I can tie it back to Bitcoin for the listeners that are like, how do we get over here? But it's because, when you have broken money,
Mhm,
you are constantly stressed, right? Who
mhm,
out there is stressed? I bet there's a lot of people listening, like thinking in their head, yeah, I'm kind of stressed because everything just gets harder and harder. It doesn't get easier. And it's like, think to yourself, why is that? That doesn't make any sense. If we're humans and we're evolving and we're supposed to be like the smartest, species, we're the apex predator, like,
mhm.
how could life be getting harder and harder? Well, something's broken. Okay, what's broken? Then you figure out the money is broken. And then when you look back in history and you go, oh my God, this has happened all throughout history. Like,
Mhm.
that's what people don't do. They don't go back and look. It's like, oh, like this happened already.
Just
This
think,
is,
oh, you
it's a
know why?
pattern.
It's kind of annoying because we're taught in school about all the wars that happen in history. You hear about this war and that war and this crumbling civilization because of this, but they don't tell you why those wars started. They don't really tell you about
Yep.
the civilizational collapse or how they had to, because the currencies were inflated, and they don't teach you about that being the cause of it.
Because it undermines the very core foundation of the society, and this is why it's so difficult for people to realize they've been living under this false system. And my argument, again, back to why Bitcoin, is because it gets out of that federal control, that top-down control. That's the core
Mhm,
problem, because once you have top-down control, you have top-down control of the money, and then you have corruption, and then you have basically a small group of people at the top, and they don't know anybody at the bottom. They don't know their names. They're just numbers, right? So those people become slaves in that system. And that's what's happened to all of us. That's what's happened to, 95%
yeah,
of America, and most of the rest of the world, through paper money that you can just print. And now the US dollar is basically the world reserve. So that's what everybody uses. So it's just this fake paper money that everyone just assumes is real. Well, that's a house of cards.
mhm,
And when they keep doing that and everything's costing more, then people like you and me, everyone just out there, your neighbor, your friend, we can't afford to live. And
mhm,
and so it goes back to relationships for me. When we get
mhm,
spiritual, it's like when you're stressed like that and the money is broken, all of society breaks down, and it goes
mhm,
all the way down to the individual, like the family level, because we're
mhm.
all stressed. So we all hate, everyone
Right.
hates everyone. We're all getting
Mhm,
divorces. We're all doing this. We're all fighting. Because why? Because we're stressed. Life is way too complicated, way
mhm.
too hard. I mean, how many
Right,
emails do I have in my inbox this morning? Probably 100. How am I supposed?
right.
Come on. I'm going to read all those. Oh, how
Yeah,
many things of mail do I have? How much of it is crap? How much do I have to sift through? How many chats do I have to go back through? Like, I mean, I'm late on my, tire rotations. I got to get my oil change. Like, it's
yeah,
insane, like
yeah,
literally, like this is stupid. Like, it's
yeah,
2025. So let's get the AI, let's get the Bitcoin fixed, and we can make everything super efficient. And that's the thesis of my book, is that if we
mhm,
use real money, Bitcoin, stress goes away. Okay, because we stop making the money less powerful, less purchasing power. We keep the same purchasing power. So I can go buy stuff. Um, and we have AI, so we can do things
yeah,
super fast. AI doesn't get tired, AI
yeah,
doesn't get bored, AI doesn't mess up. So we just throw AI at everything, and I really believe that we could be entering the next renaissance where we can
yeah,
all have more time. We can have better relationships with our family, our friends. We don't have to worry so much about the future, because our money that we save will last us, and not only last us over the next 50 to 100 years, it should theoretically appreciate, because we're in adoption phase. And if you understand
mhm,
economics, as the market grows, the value of Bitcoin will grow. That's why number go up. That's why we're hitting 10 million, 20 million, 30 million a coin. And we're just happen to be alive in that window, this next 20, 30, 40 years, while we're switching from paper, literally paper. It's
yeah,
2025. We're using a little paper in our pocket. Are you kidding me? And we're switching over to Bitcoin. So boom,
yeah.
there you go.
No, it is really another, like, the Renaissance, or like a technological revolution instead of a, industrial revolution. And yeah, it is a snippet of time, that we're living through, and it's crazy that we're experiencing it. So it's like we would love it if more people would realize the magnitude of what's happening, because how cool would it be for you to feel like you were part of that, because and it could save you honestly, and save your family, and save you stress and pull you out of that, if we call it fiat slavery mindset, it's people that are you need to realize like the middle class is being strangled. And I think
Yeah.
so much of the people are middle class. So, it felt like middle class was comfortable before, and now it's not. Now it's you have to work so much more, and yes, you don't have family time. It's just it kills relationships and family. It's terrible. And that's why, yeah, the longer you're in Bitcoin, the more you see your time saved. You see your money growing because it's in a whole outside system that's not controlled by greedy politicians. And you mentioned something about it being, um, first of all, the you said the greatest magic trick in history, and I think that's a
Of
really great way that you said that
fiat.
too, because yes, yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I call
Not
fiat the
Bitcoin.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call fiat the greatest magic trick in history. Yeah,
Mhm.
because
And it's
it's
like,
just
I don't get like how it's been able to trick people for so long. I don't know how that's possible, but I think it's because, again, even in school, you said you went to college and learned about economics. Did you learn actually what money is in
no,
college?
not no, they don't teach any of this stuff, and anyone will teach you that. And my schooling was relatively, elementary. I didn't get a master's or anything like that, but, um, no, they
Yeah,
don't teach this. They don't teach
I've
this
heard
stuff.
that.
Yeah, you can ask anyone who's gone to any level of study, and they're just like, "No, we've never talked about this."
Yeah, they teach you about debt, I think. Debt, and that's like what the economy is to
They
colleges or
teach they literally teach you debt-based economics, like,
yeah.
Keynesian economics, and, all these different, like, debt-based systems,
Mhm.
Alan Greenspan, all the stuff that the US does. They're just like, "Yeah, this is what put that in the textbook. This is what we're doing." And then, they know what they're doing, but they don't tell you that that's what it is. And so it's very
Wow.
tricky. And, I think it's 1913, it's Jekyll Island. That was when the Fed was created, and it was just a bunch of rich guy, not even a bunch, it was like a handful. It was like, I think it was
Mhm.
6 or 7 or something like that, that went to this island and just created the Fed. And it just, and then it got signed in, and boom, they kind of, I think they did it over Christmas Eve or something tricky like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
You can fact check me on these, but yeah, the story of
Yeah.
There's a little snippet of it in my book,
Mhm.
where they created the Fed, and that's 1913. And then from there, you're supposed to be on the reserve. So you're supposed to be reserved by gold, right? So if I have $100, I'm supposed to be able to go into a bank and get, $100
Yeah.
worth of gold. Yeah, right. Obviously was not possible, but it was slowly kind of phased out, right? To where people just didn't really notice. And then, fast forward to 1971, and we go off the gold standard, and now there's no backing. And
Mhm.
so, like, they're just not teaching the citizens about what's going on, and they're just completely off the rails. I mean, I think it's the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a group of people that can just make up this fake money. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous
I know.
that people don't believe it's possible. They're like, "No, that's just too ridiculous." And it's just like, that's how they get away with it, in a sense, is that it is so ridiculous
I
that
think,
people
what I
still can't
think
believe
part of
it.
the reason too. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I'm again, it's my brain.
No, you're good.
But I think that when you tell people about Bitcoin, sometimes, like, I've heard this said to me before as an argument, back when I used to kind of try to do that more. Now I just wait for people to come to me and ask questions. I don't try to just convince people.
Yeah.
I'm done. And that's why I have this channel, so I could just send them an episode if they really
Yeah,
wanna
that's why I
hear
have the
what's
book.
going
Here's
on.
the book. Here you
Yeah,
go.
right?
There
Yeah.
there you go.
But somebody had told me before when I mentioned Bitcoin, they said, "Well, the US dollar is backed by our military." And I think people just love the idea of thinking of like that um superiority kind of complex, like we're the US, we have the best military, we are undefeatable, and thank God for that. People just love to, but it's like the US dollar and the US military and the people in charge create wars for this money, inflation, and all the stuff that you think you're standing by. It's actually a huge problem in the world, and it's actually disgusting, so um I just think that when people try to ask me about, well, what's Bitcoin backed by, because they can't understand that it doesn't have a military behind it. But I just like to tell them that it's like a global shield like a global shield for nobody being able to steal your time that you save, so it's just like that's what it's backed by. People think what does it make? I'm like, it makes a defense system for
Again, this is it makes me think of Jeff Booth every time we kind of get into this area, because it's just, again, like, you can't, it's so hard for most people to wrap their heads
Mhm,
around it. It's like such a small percentage of us. I mean,
mhm.
I don't know. Let's pat ourselves on
It's
the back a
true.
little bit. I don't want to gloat, but, like, it's hard to see it. It really is hard to see, because there's never been anything like this, and it literally changes the entire structure of humanity. Because think about it.
Mhm.
What is the modern structure of civilization? Well, it's lines on a map. It's
Yeah,
territorial is what I mean. And so it's territorial by decree, based on some guys who, plant a flag in the ground and say, "Oh, we're the stronger, get out of our territory." Just like, chimps or whatever, monkeys would,
mhm,
be like, "Get out of our trees," right? These are our trees. And that's been the way it's been. I mean, very much, I call us monkey brains a lot. So humans we're just, you know, bipedal monkey brains.
mhm.
We're not that smart. And so we've just done the territorial thing. And that's been our whole existence. We're not that smart. We're just now getting to the place where we're figuring out, wait a minute, we don't have to go by lines on a map. We don't have to go by angry men waving clubs and swords
Right.
around and stuff. Like, we don't have to do that. What we can do is we can just track everything globally. Let's just track everything globally. Let's put it all on a single ledger, just one
Mhm,
single sheet of paper. Let's just track every single thing, and let's just make sure it's just got the same one-to-one measurement. Everything is equal all the time. We never change what the measurement
mhm.
is. Bitcoin.
Yeah,
That's what Bitcoin is. And people can't wrap their head around it, because we've just been
yeah.
on this analog, archaic, lines on a map, territory by decree, fiat bullshit paper system. That's it. That's all
Mhm.
we know.
Right.
So how do you try to tell people there's this completely different thing that's completely outside, right? It's almost like saying to somebody, "Look, you're in dimension 17 right now. There's a dimension 35 over here." And they're like, "Hell no, I don't want to go to dimension 35."
Yeah,
But that's
right.
what's happening. Like, we're entering
Yep.
a new dimension
True.
of evolution. And we're right in between. So, like, some people will be left behind and some people will be moving forward. And we're talking about wealth. Oh, well, I shouldn't say
Mhm,
wealth. We're talking about value. So if you
mhm,
want to have value, like, in the future dimension of reality that us humans are in right now, then you need to get on the Bitcoin bandwagon, or you're just going to get left behind. Because once you invent fire, you don't uninvent fire. Once you invent the printing press, you don't uninvent the printing press. So
mhm,
Bitcoin's here, and it's never going to go away, and
mhm,
it's going to appreciate in value as it gets adopted. So,
mhm.
not
Yeah, and
financial advice, but just
it's
saying.
like, yeah, and it's like literally the line. It's like there's you in the real world, and there's the roller coaster rides you could go through with the crypto stuff if you think you're gonna, just try to get over that way, but you could just take a step over and just not do any of that, But people do have to take their own journey and go through that, and maybe they need to go through it in order to find Bitcoin. Maybe they need to get rug pulled, or maybe they need to see the rules change.
I
And
did.
yeah, I mean, I did too. I mean, it's like you have to see the manipulation in tokens, and you have to see that people are really good at lying to you. People you have to get lied to and kind of get wrecked when you start to believe someone, and then you realize that you don't have to believe a specific person anymore. You could just Bitcoin's system is different. Because so many people, they just I have said this before, but I think the argument is kind of funny when people talk about other coins that are coming out that are the new Bitcoin, or they're just like Bitcoin when Bitcoin started. And I just like to remind people that Ethereum also said it was proof of work until it wasn't. So it's like there's a group of people that could change these rules whenever they want.
I mean, again, I'm not ashamed to say it. Like, I was one of those guys, and I think
Mhm,
this is just a nature of, you have this thing, again, that it's very hard to
mhm,
wrap your head around it, and if you're a creator, which I am, entrepreneurs, anyone who's likes to tinker, we want to build, we want to figure out how to use something, and this is brand new,
mhm,
so you just start trying different things.
mhm,
Um, and for better or for worse, I mean, that's just humanity, right? I think it's a good thing, because that's how we find out, that's how we discover things.
mhm,
um but like, I have my token that I put out, and it had a 21 billion supply, and I thought that was all clever because I'm like, oh, Bitcoin has 21 million and I'm gonna have 21
Yeah.
billion, and it's gonna be, and it's like you
But
get
what
in your head, you just think that like something's gonna quote unquote work, and at the end of the day, what I realized, again, back to the protocol, is that
Yeah, I
Bitcoin
forgot
is
you
the
even had started that. I wanted to hear, like, so what changed or what made you realize, like, it was not a good thing?
Yeah, it's that Bitcoin is the protocol, and then you realize that everything else, like all crypto. I'm talking about, so put Bitcoin in a separate bucket and then
Mhm,
take all of crypto, everything else, Ethereum, Solana, all the meme coins, all the stable coins, every single other thing is just a little blip of experimentation right now in year 16 of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's going to be around for thousands and thousands of years. So that should put it in perspective. Like, of course, you're going to lose 99% of the time. This is like penny stocks. These are just people like me, entrepreneurs, people, kids in a garage, whatever. We're all just messing around. Like, everyone started to uh, make Vitalik into this like deity. I remember, like, back in the day. It was
yeah,
like 2015, and he was this like all this amazing person, and maybe he's the next Satoshi, and it was like everyone was trying to be the next Satoshi, the next Bitcoin, the next this, and it's like, no, guys, we just invented fire, right? We just did a protocol thing, it's called Bitcoin, and now we're all just like messing around on top of that. So
mhm,
that's what I think people need to really try to understand.
yeah. So when you compare Bitcoin being fire, inventing the printing press, sometimes I think people think of Bitcoin as like MySpace, and then Facebook comes out, and then all these other ones come out, but it's not like that. And why do you wanna, or how could you explain to people that it's not like a
Yeah,
MySpace?
well, that's like the perfect analogy, and one that I use very frequently, which is just trying to sort of compare. You can look at the internet. The internet is basically the rails for modern day information transfer, right? Like, we can put up web pages, we can view those things, we can do chat apps, we can communicate back and forth. So it's our ability to transfer information and locate that information, right, with a unique IP address, HTML address that we can track. Bitcoin is the same thing for value. So it's the rails for
Mhm,
value, which is another word for money, which is just a social construct, which is supposed to retain the value of the work that someone does. So it's like, okay, you did something of value. Here's something to hold that value. And then I should be able to take that value and, use it somewhere else for something later. So, Bitcoin is the mechanism that allows you to do that, based on the fixed supply, based on the fact that you can trade it permissionless, directly, trustless. Um, Sorry, I'm off on a tangent. What was the direct?
no, we're just about how it's, I was just getting so into what you were saying too,
I
but it's
know.
just like, how is it not like MySpace? Because it's
Oh,
not
right, right.
that, it can't
Right.
be. Yeah.
Okay, so right, so you have the internet that is the base layer of that, right? And then you have the MySpaces and the Googles that are built on top of that, and that's
Mhm,
the same thing with with Bitcoin, to where, like I'm saying, like with Lightning, right? Lightning is
mhm,
a layer one on Bitcoin that's built on top of Bitcoin to make Bitcoin more powerful. Take any of the stable coins, Circle, right? That's just a company that's building on top of the Bitcoin platform, like
mhm,
a Google or a Facebook. So that's the
right,
difference, is that Bitcoin is like the internet. Everything else is like a Google or a Facebook, just a company, again, like a stock, a company, a group of people that are building something. Bitcoin is different. There is no
mhm,
team behind Bitcoin. There is no company. Bitcoin is not a company. Again, it's another thing that people get confused. They're like, there's no marketing team. Yeah, does Fire have a marketing team? Do we have to be like, hey, like, where's the guys promoting Fire? Like, no, Fire is just so useful as a protocol.
mhm,
We use it to heat our food so we don't get sick.
mhm,
We use it for light. We use it for warmth. We use it to power things. We use it for the energy that it provides. You know, so it's like, no, we're just gonna we're just gonna use the fire, and fire's not gonna like go out of business. Fire's not gonna be uninvented, right? So that's
yeah,
the same thing with Bitcoin. And people, like, if you could imagine how much value fire has created for humanity, right? It's allowed us to do all these different things. Imagine if you could own, right, in dollars, whatever amount of value fire has created since it was created. That's what you
so
can do. That's what you can do with Bitcoin. You can just own a piece of the platform, and it's going to provide trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of value. It's
mhm.
already up to 2 trillion right now. and it's going to provide hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of value on this protocol, and you can like own a piece of that. That's unprecedented. That's never been possible.
This is crazy because you're right. You could own a piece of that, and when you think of it as, you know, an like fire is an element, right? And then maybe even though all these other shifting technologies that were complete changes to the way the world does things. So when you think of the printing press or the internet, they were the things that came along until the fifth element came along. So if fire is an element and then Bitcoin is this like other element,
Oh, I like that. It is kind
right?
of like another element. Yeah.
It's like that
Brand new.
cyberspace, yeah, element that ties physics to the real world.
You might have a book there.
Really? Yeah, the fifth element, it'll be the girl with the orange hair.
Yeah, because what
But
are the
she's
other elements?
Bitcoin.
But yeah, I mean, because you have
It's like
what,
water.
air,
Yeah,
wind, fire, something like
yeah.
that, and then Bitcoin. Because I mean, Bitcoin is really that value protocol, that value layer. So it's an
Mhm,
energy. It is an energy force, because proof of
mhm,
work, which is the mining mechanism that underlies the entire system, is all predicated on the harnessing and tracking and measuring of energy. That's what
mhm.
makes each unit of Bitcoin verifiable. So when your friends do ask you, well, what's it backed up by? It's literally backed up by energy that you can measure.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's
So
crazy. That's the cool thing about talking to people about this stuff is you can think of it in different ways and you can come up with reasons why like how it makes sense to you and how powerful this thing really is and how transformative it really is. So yeah, just finding ways to really just convey that to people and tell them, that uh step over to this side, this will help you. So one other thing that you did talk about too is the whole, distract how it's like a big distraction because it's not about red versus blue, and knowing that you got into this during a time where, politics were affecting kind of your ultimate decision to get into Bitcoin. So not like red versus blue, but green versus orange or orange versus green, I guess you would say.
yep,
Yeah, so I love to think of it that way too, because it's not what people think it is. And that's another reason why the way that you describe things at the beginning of your book, when you talk about being like a matrix, people are just so stuck in this other realm where they're looking at it from a political perspective and how they can't get over that because it's meant to distract you. Just like the girl in the red dress, walking by, it's like meant to be a distraction.
yeah,
Um, but when you actually, see what's going on, you realize that it's a whole different set of colors. It's Bitcoin orange versus the fiat green, I guess.
yep.
It's just
So I say
crazy.
that in my book, and I think I like usually post it every now and then too, because it's such a cool
Mhm.
line. I can't remember. I don't think I really invented it or something. It was on one of X Space, and someone said it, and
Um,
um, yeah. But it's definitely not. I voted in the last election, and I wish I didn't, because it just doesn't even matter. It's just like it's
doesn't matter.
stupid, and so now it's like I even think that even more. I wasn't really participating for many years. Then I thought, okay, I'm a Bitcoiner, and I really need to push this. So let me go ahead and vote, and I did, and um,
Mhm.
and here we are. It's like just, it's the same
Right.
same crap.
And I
So
feel like the same way. Like I don't. No, I mean, me and my husband are both the same. We both just say like every politician just lies to you. Like everything's all lies anyway. But they do have a really good way of getting under your skin one way or the other. And especially when you're a Bitcoiner and you started to believe that, besides the whole free Ross thing, I know that happened. That was a promise that was made that came true, which was great because he doesn't deserve to be in prison. But I think other than that, we've had promises made and we haven't really seen them happen, like come through, and actually deliver. So it just makes you, yeah, kind of confirms the fact that even with the whole DOGE thing, like I just thought Elon was going to revamp the government and cut
that
out all
was
the
it.
waste and
That
spending.
that was it for me. I was gonna
Yeah.
say is because it was like, maybe there's a chance. I never thought there was a chance until Elon came in. That's really when I shifted, and I was like, okay, maybe could actually happen, because if he's gonna go in there, use his technical expertise to
Hmm.
efficiently clean this whole thing up and clean house, maybe this could be the revolution that we need. And then
Right.
they get in there and you realize, oh no, he can't do anything. He can't even make a dent. They're not going to let it happen. And that was for me when I realized when Doge couldn't do anything
Mhm.
substantial. That was when I realized it was
Like,
orange for
look how it's like a serpent or like like a multi-headed whatever that is, like, you
you.
can't kill it
You cannot do anything to that from the inside.
from
It
the
has
inside.
to come from the outside, and that's when I realized we're in a, green versus orange, not a red versus blue
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah.
So,
It was very mind-blowing to see that because
yeah.
you thought if you have somebody who's now the president and he's bringing in a technologist like Elon and he's bringing in his crew and it's a whole Doge thing, like, you thought, "This is gonna just kill the spending machine, find all the ways that there's corruption," and, but again, this stuff runs so deep, yeah, from inside the system, you just realize that they're not gonna let it happen. That's why Bitcoin is outside that system, and we just migrate over to that, and it just confirms the fact that that's what we should be, spending our time in and working on and promoting and, showing people why it could help them. Because this whole thing, it's literally just a big it causes stress. I mean, the distraction causes stress. It causes, fighting between families and all these terrible things, but you realize that I think even Elon had said at one point that he realized for the money he was saving with Doge and what he was allowed to get in and change, it was such a small percentage compared to the amount of money that's being spent in the US government that I think
Right.
that's when he realized maybe to f when well, like, when you mention AI in your book and you talk about how AI and Bitcoin and things can, the future will look different, but I think from his point of view, it was let me just spend my time more efficiently in AI and keep that growing because AI will help this Jeff Booth's idea of the deflationary technology, um, bringing prices down in the future. It's like that's the world. If you could spend more time in that world, or you could spend more time in Bitcoin, those things will help bring prices down and help people going forward. I think versus trying to just cut spending now, which is something they
Oh,
cannot
yeah.
do. I think.
Yeah, no, that was the realization for sure on both ends.
Mhm.
He was I mean, I don't know. I'm not close enough to know, but
Mhm.
I have a sense that Elon was like, "Yeah, get me the hell out of here. This is ridiculous," you know? And then it was like they were just like, "This is never gonna work." And who
Mhm.
knows what the initial idea was, but more and more in my mind, I again, it's the green versus orange to where once you're in office, like you become co-opted in some form or fashion. I don't know
Mhm.
how that works. I've never been on the inside, but like it's
Mhm.
clear that you just can't make broad sweeping changes. It's just not going to happen. They tried, it didn't
Yeah.
work. And so yeah, the logical conclusion is that this has to happen from the outside. And look, there's a lot of chatter in the industry about all the institutions picking this up and it getting to the nation state level, and you've got all these officials and high ranking people now, and you've got the Black Rocks and you've got Sailor, um and people worry about the incentives for all these things,
Mhm.
and in my mind, this is exactly business is planned. Like,
Right.
this is how Bitcoin is designed. It is
Mhm.
designed with a specific incentive structure, which creates game theory, which I also talk about in the book, that pushes the acceleration of the adoption of this technology, which is why we're seeing the adoption curve we're seeing. And I believe we will enter an accelerated S curve kind of adoption phase probably in the next 5 years.
Mhm.
And, it's one of those things where if you can't beat them, join them. That's
Mhm.
basically how Bitcoin is designed, so that you just can't beat it. So if you can't beat it, you have to join it. So you have these people that are trying to maintain their power, whether that's the United States government, any other government, Russia, China, or you have these other countries that are trying to come up, like El Salvador. And you can see the different strategies. On the one hand, you've got the existing traditional power structures holding on to TradFi, creating stable coins, creating all this regulation, trying to go through the government systems. And then you have a country like El Salvador, which
Mhm.
Max Kaiser is the advisor to Bukele. And, they're running this completely different sort of model predicated on Bitcoin. And that's allowing them to do a lot of very interesting things with their economies. And I believe that they're going to be the that the powerhouses of tomorrow are going to be those places that adopt Bitcoin the fastest. So we'll
Mhm.
see if any of these dinosaurs last. They're going to have to really
Yeah,
make some moves. So far,
right.
not very impressed with the United States. That being said, we just have so many resources and so much power. Hopefully, we can get our act together. But yeah, man, we need to
Yeah.
be doing much better on the Bitcoin front.
I agree. I think that, yeah, they definitely either have to change something or they're gonna see places like El Salvador be the new, powerhouses. Um, I just think that sometimes people, they hate on the treasury companies so much, but it's one of those things that I also feel like is inevitable and has to happen in order
Yep.
to bring a lot of the capital in from the TradFi systems into Bitcoin. Because again, it'll be those dinosaurs that get into those first. They're not gonna just go straight to Bitcoin. They're probably gonna get these treasury companies that are, um, that are in the system, instead of outside the system. And then I think once that happens more and more, it's just gonna show, I think, the true colors, just like how the Matrix, I think it's just gonna maybe show the difference between what happens when you own paper Bitcoin, if that's what you think it's called when it's a treasury company, or because I don't know, not all of them have proof of reserves and different things. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to show itself. I think over time it's going to be like, hey, yes, I have exposure to the asset, but do I want the actual asset now? And I think that'll just be the bridge to bring a lot of this money over to actual Bitcoin once they start to see those maybe cracks, and once the cracks start to show, if there are cracks going forward with these companies. So
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with what you just said. And with the treasury companies, to me, this is just like any other wave or trend, whatever you want to call it. You had
mhm,
the ICOs where you had a bunch of coins that were getting launched. You had NFTs where everyone was launching NFTs. I was part of these waves. You had like the Solana meme coin craze. There's always like some new thing, and one of the biggest waves right now is absolutely the treasury
mhm,
trend, and that was obviously popularized by Saylor. I mean, everyone knew this was going to happen. I mean, it's been his
mhm.
goal. He was trying to convince the top, like the Mag 7. He was trying to talk to Microsoft and have them
Yeah.
do it, but they weren't going to do it. And lo and behold, humans mess around and start doing things, and here we are. We've got a bunch of people that are trying to take advantage, whether opportunistically or not, of
Mhm.
this treasury trend. And
Yeah.
I would like to say my piece here on the treasury discussion, because I don't think this is talked about enough. I think we need to figure out better definitions or start refining the definitions for these, because what the heck is a treasury company? I mean, there's so many different things you can do with Bitcoin. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Saylor, who's basically creating financial instruments, but he's also got an
Mhm.
operating business underneath that. Then you have, you've got like zombie companies similar to that, like Semler, that are trying to reinvent themselves. And you got
Mhm.
companies that are just putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Then you've got other companies that are trying to create different unique instruments, with other models like 21 Capital, that's going to be leveraging bonds and treasuries most
Yeah.
likely, and the fact that they have Tether. So like there's all these different things, and at the end of the day, like I just think if people hold Bitcoin, they're going to be more successful. Like if
Yeah.
you're, restaurant A, restaurant B, right? Restaurant A does not do anything with Bitcoin. Restaurant B does stuff with Bitcoin. Restaurant B wins. Like that's just
Mhm.
so like pick any industry, pick any
Mhm.
area like that, and just if you're going to be early on Bitcoin, it's just like anything else. Like when
So
the
right.
internet was being born, if you had a website and you were first out there, you could stand to gain, because you're
So
forward looking.
true.
So yeah,
I
that's
think that,
where
yeah,
we're
I
at.
think you're right about defining that, because if you think about it, they're all treasury, all these things are treasury companies, but really anybody that buys Bitcoin, whether it's for their own business or for their own family, you're really creating your own Bitcoin treasury. So, and you're better off just saving your money in Bitcoin that way and building your own treasury for your family or your business. So technically you don't need to put it in somebody else's unless you're trying to play these like derivative fiat games or something with it. And I feel like it's just a little more of a risk or a gamble, I guess, and it's
Mhm.
just a simpler life
Everything
holding
else is a
Bitcoin.
trade. These are all
Mhm,
trades. These treasury companies, the meme coins, they're all trades. And
mhm,
I would say maybe stable coins is more of a means of exchange solution and a bridge between now and by the time we're just fully digital. So that's
mhm,
it. And then you have Bitcoin, which is underneath again all of that as a protocol. So,
mhm.
you know,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's so eye-opening, and I think that I hope that this, shows some people the orange pill, like we say, like instead of the Matrix, red and is it the red and blue pill in the Matrix? I think so.
yeah, I changed it to green and orange in my book so
Yeah.
that I like replace. But
Oh, nice.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, you got
I
to take
like
the
that.
orange pill.
Right. Yeah. So just yeah, I hope this gets some more people to take the orange pill then and to see that Bitcoin is an exit, it's a safety. So a real safety instead of the fake safety you're told to believe in. So thank you so much. And where could people find you and your book?
Yeah, easy to find. I'm on X a lot these days, so check me out on X. Just pop my name in there. Um, Nothing lasts forever, so when X dies, you know my name. Plug me
This
into
is
the
true.
AI
True.
and catch me on the cyber network.
So true.
But yeah, just Google me, find me on X, grok me, whatever we do these
Mhm.
days. We'll teleport.
Yeah, and, meet up in some of the virtual cyberspace where Bitcoin lives.
Won't be long.
And, and then, Life After Bitcoin, make sure you check out his book, and thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an incredible conversation, and have a good rest of your day.
Stacy, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care.